Welcome back to episode 9 of the Charged Up Show. Today's guest is an absolute powerhouse. He is the owner of Next Level Performance Training, NLPT. He works with the St. Louis Blues NHL team as a strength coach, and he is the head strength and conditioning coach at the University of Waterloo. Please welcome Andrew Hopf.
Thanks for having me, guys. And I, commend you guys for using this whole quarantine time to do something productive. But I also, I'm happy to be here because you guys are, being advocates and celebrating local athletes. And that's kind of what got me into this whole thing. So can't wait to have this conversation and see where it goes.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Coming on, and it's been really interesting over the last couple of weeks trying to interview a whole bunch of different diverse people, in the sports or athletics, community around our local Waterloo Cambridge region. So it's been great.
There's so much going on, and I think our area has so much to celebrate in the world of sport. And, like yourselves and Darren Stevenson and people out there who are giving credit to athletes who are putting in some really, really good work. I think it just bodes well for, our immediate athletic endeavors, but for the future as well. So I love it. Love to see what you guys are doing.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was just kind of an idea that just popped right into our heads right at the beginning of when we started getting into isolation, just because we wanted to make sure we're doing something, and while we're doing something, maybe help out the community a little bit.
Totally.
But yeah, usually with all our guests, we start off a little speed round. Quick answers right at the top of our head and right away.
Yeah, so you're gonna get 2 minutes. 2 minutes just to break the ice.
Yeah.
We did this with Darren, so we'll be able to compare your answers to Darren. And yeah, you guys can take it away.
All right, Nate, it's all you.
Question 1: go-to fast food restaurant.
Well, if you're comparing me with Darren, I guess I gotta deepen my voice and work on my this year to make sure I'm good to go. But favorite fast food. So in Cambridge, Le Moon, Mediterranean.
Okay.
Outside of Cambridge, anywhere else, Mucho Burrito.
Nice.
That's pretty
If
easy.
you go anywhere in the world, where would you go?
I'd probably go back to Portugal.
Back to Portugal.
Hey, LeBron or MJ guy?
I'm an MJ guy.
Okay.
McDavid or Crosby?
Crosby.
Nice.
Do you think pineapple and pizza is okay?
Sorry?
Think pineapple and pizza is a good choice or no?
100%.
Yes. Okay.
Is cereal a soup?
No.
No.
What superpower would you want?
Oh, man. To fly, of course, yeah.
To fly. What's your favorite movie?
Favorite movie? Oh, man.
Top of the head.
Endgame, Avengers.
Oh, nice.
Okay, two more.
What's that?
No, 2 more questions. We're good. Keep going.
Favorite NHL player?
I guess I almost got to pick a Blues guy.
Personal favorite sport?
So Crosby is probably my favorite player.
That's fair, yeah.
And favorite sport to train?
We're putting you in some tough ones.
But I really I also enjoy the challenge of training skiers as well.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
Okay,
That's
so
different. We didn't expect that.
So that was just how we
Yeah.
kick it off. But what I usually start with always is, can you run us through your history? So we ask players to talk about their career, but for you, let's run us through maybe your teenage years, university, and then after you say that, how did that lead you to becoming a strength coach?
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm probably besides Darren, one of the oldest people on this podcast, and I think you could call me a player. I still play beer league, so.
Counts.
So I grew up in Cambridge, born, raised, still lived here. I only moved away for 2 years to, live with the boys at university. So I guess my career, if you will, starts back when I was a kid. My dad worked for the Waterloo Regional Police as kind of the facilities manager coordinator. So as a young kid, I would go over to the police station over on Hespel Road and go into their gym. And my dad would be doing some stuff around and just kind of making sure things are working right. And I'd go in there and he'd show me how to use a couple things. And he didn't really know how to use it, but I started to go and be around a gym when I was probably, like 7 years old. So thinking it was pretty cool to move weight and, that type of stuff. And, Nate, Keith, you probably haven't seen me in person. I'm not the tallest guy in the world. I'm a whopping 5'8". So coming through Cambridge, we had a very, very competitive birth year, our 1984 birth year, for whatever reason. So as I got into travel hockey and playing, and it was ultra competitive, and I was usually the last one to get cut from the AAA team every year. And it was always because I was too small.
Right.
And, being a young kid, I didn't know what that meant. So, if you've ever been cut, it's an emotional process and it sucks, and you come home with tears. And, my mom and dad were always my rock with that. And the message was, just control what you can control, and bigger, stronger, faster. So that mindset got me into training at a very, very young age, and probably training like an idiot, but I did whatever I could to try to be bigger, stronger, faster. Whether that meant putting on rollerblades and going behind Elgin Street School, and rollerblading up the hill, or rollerblading around Cambridge, or going to a church and just going in circles forever. I just did whatever I could to get better, and then that kind of led into high school, and I went to GCI. So I kind of, at that point, when I was in grade 10, I stopped playing travel hockey for almost 2 years. I played house league, and I played every sport possible. I played volleyball, I played tennis, I swam, and I trained hard. I was in the gym 6 days a week, got really into strength conditioning. And then at that point, all my buddies were starting to play, junior B hockey and OHL hockey. We started to go down and play in the NCAA, and, I started my thought, I think I can do that. I can make the jump from house league. Mm-hmm. I'm like, yeah, why not? And then I just started to practice and do whatever I could. And then that next year, I, played junior D, which, was pretty cool for me. And I won Rookie of the Year in junior D, and then moved up to junior C and played All-Star. And I'm like, maybe I could get a scholarship, or I could play this at university. So I started to kind of go down the NCAA route and, put feelers out to various D3 schools. And then originally I was recruited to play hockey at Waterloo. So I got into kinesiology, wanted to go and play hockey there. Coach came to watch, but in that time the coach got fired. A new coach came in and, put a message out to me like, hey, you're on a recruit list. How big are you? How tall are you? And I'm like, 5'8", 170. And I have 35 points in junior C. I think we're going to go a different direction and get some OHL players. So I still went to Waterloo, kept playing junior. I think I just played junior D just to have some fun at that point. While I was going to university, I was also working at GNC, kind of in the supplement field, still heavily involved in understanding, science and practice of training. Did my undergrad at Waterloo. At that point, I thought I was going to be a teacher originally. And then I quickly found out, like, I was doing some teaching. I was really into physics, mathematics, along with obviously the kinesiology science piece. So I got my teachables in biology. I have a minor in biology. So I was going to kind of go down that route, and I'm like, no, this isn't really for me. So I enrolled or applied to 3 schools to do a master's in physiology, so master Western and Waterloo. I got accepted to all of them at that point. I chose Waterloo because the head coach at Waterloo, I went to him and asked, like, hey, like, can I be your strength coach? Like, you guys don't have a strength coach for your varsity team. And so he's like, okay, well, what experience do you have? So during my undergrad, I was doing some personal training just with moms and dads at home. And, you know, I didn't have a lot of coaching experience per se, but I was super, super passionate. And I remember, like, he asked me, he's like, well, it's like, yeah, you can do it. He's like, but how are you going to make our team better? So I just laid it out and I said, my passion, my energy, I'm going to do whatever it takes, whether it's picking up tape or videoing, or I just want to come and I want to be a student, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to help this team win. So outside the scope of strength conditioning. So I ended up staying at Waterloo because I was able to be the strength conditioning coach for the varsity hockey team, alongside doing masters. So that process took place and I worked my butt off. I was probably working as a volunteer strength coach for 40 hours a week, going on road trips, going to practices, doing whatever I could to be part of the team. I was doing video analysis at that point, so I was breaking down power plays and penalty kills. I was going on recruit trips, ton of stuff outside of strength conditioning, on top of strength conditioning, and then on top of my masters. So as I was kind of going throughout this process, I was starting to discover my master's was in intracellular muscle physiology. So very science-based. We're doing, looking at really molecular biology and various enzymes in the body and how training causes adaptations. And it was really cool stuff that's impactful, but it kind of led me down, at least in that scope of research and academia, it wasn't for me. I was really, really becoming attracted to the coaching piece in strength conditioning. At that point, there was no jobs. There was maybe 2 strength conditioning facilities in Waterloo region. There was no strength coaches in UA, or even at the OHL level, there wasn't a lot of strength conditioning going on. I think the Rangers had one, but that was kind of it. So I'm like, start training people. So at that point, I bought my grandpa's van. I'll never forget, my parents had a cottage then. We went to Sarnia, and I bought a parachute. I bought a Bosu ball, a stability ball, some resistance bands, and some medicine balls. And I just started training people out of the back of my van. So we had some connections at Waterloo that I started training some people there, out on the back of Columbia ice fields. Obviously still training the University of Waterloo men's hockey team at that point. Started out, I probably had 12 clients my first year and maybe 1 team. That next year, going into the second year of my master's, then I think I had 6 teams on. A couple teams in Cambridge, a couple teams in Waterloo. I started to get some more OHL players that were kind of going down the path of getting drafted. Started to get a little bit of a reputation. I still, compared to how I coach now, I was qualified whatever to be a coach, but I just persevered and coached. And I would travel from Plattsville to Waterloo to Cambridge to Guelph I would travel anywhere anybody wanted me to coach them. That next year, I still didn't have a business name really, didn't have anything, but then I had 16 teams that I trained at local high schools. So Matt's brother, Brian, was probably one of the first teams that I worked with. And then it all kind of started from there. I figured at that point, I'm like, if I want to be taken seriously, I can't be working out of the back of my van. So I signed a lease in Kitchener. I figured Kitchener was the best spot to position because we had teams in Cambridge and teams in Waterloo. So it was halfway. So I picked Kitchener as kind of that halfway point. Got into the lease. I'm like, okay, I just 4 walls, got a washroom. I'll put some turf down, put some stuff there. Perfect, good to go. Obviously not the case. There's things called building permits and actually operate properly. And a building inspector came in and said, oh, you need a HVAC unit. You need this, you need this. So that was a ton of money out the door. Persevered through that and a bunch of other things. Was in that space for 5 years. At that point, another 5 really good facilities opened up in KW. Our client base was pretty much in Cambridge. We moved back to Cambridge. In our location that we currently are, both my wife and I, so my wife and I own the facility. She runs the clinical side. I guess I oversee. I don't really run the training side as much. We have staff that do that. And then now 4.5 years ago, we opened a second location in Stratford. I guess this is just on the NLPT side. During that time, tons happened, which we can talk on. I think I saw in the questions about Owen Sounds. Maybe we can talk about that.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, yeah, like we actually just sold our Stratford location a month and a half ago because I wanted to just narrow from a impact perspective. It was just becoming a little bit overwhelming with my kid and my other jobs, and I just felt I wanted to narrow my focus on developing our community here in Cambridge. So we can kind of unpack the rest of that. There's obviously lots that is going on at the same time, but that's kind of from a NLPT side where we got to today and where I got to, with my role with the Blues and the University of Waterloo, where I am full-time right now. And still trying to have an impact, through the community, through NLPT. So.
I just want to also, before we get into anything else there, just congratulate you on all your hard work there because, like I said before, I was at NLPT all last year, and I absolutely loved it. It was amazing. So you've really built a really, truly powerful business there.
Thanks. I mean, it's cutthroat. It's competitive.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that's what keeps me going through all of this is knowing that we're having impact on people. It would, people ask, do you really need to have it anymore? And I'm like, no, I don't. I don't, but I want to because I think it's doing really, really good for our community and it's allowing people to grow. So it's like, no, I don't need it, but I want it for the community. So,
right, yeah, of course.
Happy to hear it's still having impact.
Yeah,
Okay.
on your there, I just want to, before I cut anything, but it's crazy on your start of the story there. You literally explained, it was kind of strange, how I want my future to be in. I want to go to school, hopefully with kinesiology. I don't know what school I'm landing at, but and then from there, either go chiropractic way or even do personal training, either gym teacher way. So you seem like a really knowledgeable guy, and it was great to kind of see where you ended up now from trying all these different avenues. When you went to school, you experimented with different sports. So yeah, it was just kind of cool. It was crazy. When you were explaining all this, wow, it's kind of how I want to end up at, But
I think it's challenging when you're young and you're driven and you're I'm going this direction. This is what I'm going to get. And even for me, it was hard when I'm at one point I wanted to be an accountant.
yeah,
And it was deciding, oh no, I don't want to be an accountant. And then these kind of left and right turns. But I think that just working hard and staying focused and staying on a path, whether you go right or go left, you're going to result in a place that you're going to be happy and hopefully be fulfilled. So
100%, yeah.
Yeah, and I think coming from a perspective, I'd say that's pretty crazy here, and I don't know how to put it, the grind you kind of went through. People wouldn't know that. Me, Keith just coming to NLPT last year, right? He would see that product, but he wouldn't see all like you said, all the driving you did before that was even a thing. I think that's pretty interesting, and for people that listen and most of the hockey guys in Cambridge have been to NLPT, right? And they would, who knew, right, all the things you had to do to get to that point. I think that was really cool hearing that part of the story.
It's just kind of the tip of the iceberg. Like at one point, I was down to our last $1,200, and we had no equipment. Like, no equipment. So I found a gym that was closing in Wingham, and we went and bought their equipment, and it was all rusty dumbbells, stuff like that. So we painted them and did whatever we could to just get equipment in the gym. And then from there on out, like we had no like investors or anything like that. Like it was just anytime I wanted a piece of equipment, I saved up and bought it. So for the first 7 years of my life, and within that facility, I think I paid myself, less than $30,000 a year. Just enough to get by. And because I just reinvested everything into every piece of equipment. So anything that you see there today is because we just saved and saved and saved and bought and saved and bought and saved, and I went about doing it that way.
Yeah. A lot of your blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah, a lot of all of those things. A lot of all of those things. So there has been tears. I'll tell you that much.
So we have here. You coached in Owen Sound, and that's really cool. We've had some people on the podcast who've played. Well, a lot of people in the OHL who've either Owen Sound or like played against them, right? So what were your roles there, and what did you take away from it, and how did that help your development as a coach?
Totally. Well, maybe I'll just take a step back. So the Owen Sound role, again, I got into the world of strength conditioning at the right time, but there wasn't a lot of people going into strength conditioning. It wasn't a really well-defined field at that point. So I was working with Mike Helmo at that point. So Mike is a 1991 birth year out of Waterloo. So he, it was two sides. So he introduced me to the general manager at that time and kind of asked, hey, do you guys have the strength? A conversation. And then kind of at the same time, I got asked to speak down in Oshawa at the under 15 program of excellence. And the athletic therapist, Andy Brown, who's still there, was at that talk that I did and asked, like, hey, like, you ever thought about being a strength coach in the OHL? And it kind of just, the stars aligned perfectly. My wife, Owen, lives in Oshawa. So we met for coffee at Tim Hortons one day and just had a good conversation. At that point, I was 22 years old, still very young. Didn't know a lot about strength conditioning, and he gave me the opportunity, Dale DeGray, to come in and be a strength coach. So it's like, Owen Sound, like, how did you do that? Well, I drove to Owen Sound every week. Usually we would go up, and I would so this is when NLPT was starting. I would go up, I would get to Owen Sound for about 6:45 a.m. So I would leave here in Cambridge at about 4:15 in the morning. Wow. I would drive up, I would coach the guys who were in school before they went to school, and then the breakfast club. So the older guys would come in at about 9:30. I would train them, and then I would probably leave from home around 11 a.m. or so. Drive halfway, I'd probably be exhausted. I'd pull over, have a little bit of a nap in Mountain Forest, and then drive all the way back. And then I would coach at NLPT from 3 till 9 p.m. So that kind of process lasted for 7 or 8 years. I was in Owen Sound as their strength coach. That first year, just again, the stars were aligned. We had a phenomenal team. We ended up winning the OHL championship that first year. At that point, I thought, like strength coach, and I played a huge part in this. And guys who were skilled who all went on to play, or still playing in the NHL. But I would go up and do what I thought was right at that time. But during that time and working with that level of athlete, it kind of made me understand, like, how to for me. I was so young that I didn't really have what I would call a hammer to discipline or hold people to account. But I started to build really, really good relationships with my athletes, and they listened to me, and I was I was really invested in helping them get better. That gave me a little bit of cred with them, I guess. So I was in Owen Sound for 7 years. I learned a lot from a lot of really, really good coaches. Starting with Mark, the late Mark Reeds, who passed away when he was with Ottawa, and then into Greg Ireland, who's still coaching over in Switzerland. Drew Bannister, who I'm actually working quasi with in the St. Louis organization right now. Ryan McGill, who's the assistant coach with Vegas Golden Knights right now. He was incredibly hard on me. Not in a mean way or anything like that, but his level of detail was just through the roof. And I probably, next to Brian Bork, when I was, initially coaching at the university in my master's, I learned the most from him in terms of, what it takes to kind of rinse out performance from your athletes. So yeah, it was 2 years ago when I was offered the role with St. Louis. I had to give that up because obviously I'm going in different rooms, visiting kids from different teams. So my experience in Owen Sound, that organization, I know it's kind of cliche. People say this organization is great, but they're unbelievable. From the ownership group, it is a family-run business up there. Like, it is everyone. The fans are amazing. Everyone's supportive. Like, the fans knew who I was. Like, the management, Dale DeGray and how he runs it, the therapy group led by Andy Brown, the coaching staff that have come in, like that organization takes care of their people. They take care of the kids, the billet families. I have nothing, but they're awesome. So I get a little bit emotional thinking about them, and kind of just because without the experience I got in Owen Sound, I for sure would not be in the position I am today. So
yeah, really incredible.
Thank you. If someone in Owen Sound is seeing this, thank you. And I just, if any kid has the opportunity to play in that city, like, you'll know how special it is.
Yeah, that's a really amazing story. It's cool that that's how you kind of, or the development started from there. It's a whole special story.
Yeah.
Bringing the lighter side of it, we obviously talked about all the connections you had, but on the lighter side, who do you think was a couple of them, or the most notable player you worked with when you're in 7 years in Owen Sound? Like, what was the coolest for you personally?
I don't. That's hard. There was no. I think the coolest, and I look at just stories, is a guy like Curtis Gabriel, who was undrafted by Gel and got, seen at a summer skate and came in, and just how hard that kid worked. Irregardless of what anybody else was saying, he would wake up early and stick handle and be in the gym and just work his ass off. And I think the story of him, and then now, like, having a tenured professional career at the NHL and AHL level, and still embracing the quote unquote grind. I think that's one of the coolest stories, just from a development perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But it just to see players, the talent, the overall commitment to performance some of these guys had. And guys, I don't like to name drop, because there's so many kids that, they went to the NHL, but there's other kids that went to university hockey and had tremendous careers and became tremendous people. So I think that it's easy to say, those guys who are in the NHL are the coolest stories, but they're part of the entire story.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of, you, as a coach, you learn from them. I hope they learn from me a little bit and have impacted their careers, but I think it's important for all of them to know that they've helped shape who I am as well. So
yeah, that's a really humble answer. That's pretty.
It's an interesting way to look at it, for sure. Like, I think most people would have quickly said the most notable NHLer. but I think that really shows something, that the way you went with that. And that is a really good point, that not everyone makes the NHL. There's people who go to Europe, and there's people who go to school and then start a normal job. And I think that's a really good way to look at it.
Yeah. Yeah, do you want to get back a little bit into your work with the St. Louis Blues? I think that's going to be interesting to a lot of people too, because it's a really cool work with an NHL team.
Prior to the St. Louis study, it's a very, very much part-time consulting type role that I do, but my role is the development strength coach. So from the time players are drafted into our organization, to when they are playing full-time, either with the Blues or with our AHL affiliate, which is now in Springfield, Massachusetts. They're my responsibility from a programming and oversight perspective. So obviously we have players across North America, we have players across the world that we're overseeing from a programming standpoint, and we're making sure that they're developing in a way that gives them the greatest ability to have impact at the professional level. And I say that in the sense that they have capacity to play at our level. And that comes back from a testing and program direction from our head strength conditioning coach in St. Louis, and making sure that they're developing in a way that when they do get to that level, they have the skill sets in the strength conditioning sense that they need. They have the behavioral skill sets outside of the gym that they need, and then obviously they have the ability to play the systems that we want them to play in the roles that they need to play at the professional level. So that kind of brings in the programming, testing, and the coaching piece. But yeah, this opportunity started, really, it's almost 5-6 years ago, even before that. So I volunteered with the Maple Leafs for a couple summers, which kind of gave me a little bit of a resume builder. And then this opportunity came up. I went down and just volunteered just to shadow and observe development camps and training camps for a couple years and help with their testing, and try I wasn't going down for any other reason, just to learn and try to have, impact and be a good member of the development group when I was down there. And then kind of during that time, I was doing a good job and kind of, helping out couple things here and there. And then they said, would you be interested in coming on as our development strength coach? And obviously you're going to kind of jump at that. And, I made sure that it was, okay with my full-time job at the university, and I'm very fortunate enough that they support that. And then I'm now going into my third year of helping with St. Louis and helping the prospects chase their dreams. So, it's cool that it's an NHL job and, everything like that. And, obviously, with the Stanley Cup and all that kind of stuff that happened is awesome. But I think that the biggest thing is that I get to be part of helping kids chase their dreams. I think that's what's most exciting for me. So it goes back to that idea that, it's cool that, you're in the NHL and, you get to go down there and, fly a plane to Traverse City and that type of stuff. But I think at the end of the day is when you get to see literally a kid get drafted to the NHL and then, sign their contract and play their first game. And that's the most rewarding part, is that you got to be part of their story. So, so that's kind of what my role is. It's very much part-time. So I will go down for development camp. This year is a bit weird, obviously. So normally development camp is after the draft. So I go down and be part of welcoming them into our organization and teaching them what our systems are, obviously through the direction of our head strength conditioning coach. And making sure that they understand the expectations throughout the off-season. During the off-season, obviously they're across the world, so I'll touch in, make sure I'm communicating with their strength coaches wherever they are, the expectations that we have. And then I'll see them again at our rookie tournament, which is normally in Traverse City, where I'll go and I'll be kind of the strength coach for our rookie team in Traverse City. And then everyone goes back to the junior teams, and I go back to the university, and kind of during their competitive seasons, I'll be touching in on a regular basis, make sure they're doing the work they need to do. And then the kids that are within Ontario, I'll usually visit once a month. The kids who are within Canada, I'll visit during their December break. And then the European kids, is a bit tougher to get over there and see them. And then I'll be part of the conversation during the draft. So I'll go to the combine and observe, take notes, and kind of consult with our director of scouting and assistant general manager in St. Louis to make sure that we're making as informed decisions as possible when it comes down to the draft. So that's kind of my role. It's fantastic. It serves as a great development platform for myself too.
That's amazing. Yeah, and I think it's clear that from all the stories that you told so far that your whole career in general is very diverse, and it seems like it's a lot. You're putting a lot of work and effort into all this. What would you say to people listening of how do you manage your time, and do you find that as a challenge to stay on top of everything?
Yeah, it is challenging for sure. I think, when a lot of people ask me, like, how do you do it? I love what I do. And which is good and bad. And early on, like, you say yes to everything, and every opportunity you're saying yes to. And I think now I'm saying no to a lot more, because I do need to protect my time, protect my energy and my family. So I try to be as organized as possible. I prioritize my time, and when it's time to work, I really, really work. I work hard. And now I'm at a point where with the Stratford location and starting to kind of let go of things that aren't having impact on my career goals and impact on my family. And the community that I want to have impact on, then I'm starting to kind of say no to that. So that's how I keep it all organized, I guess. And I think the other piece is just, a team around me, starting with my wife. I'm thinking about how many people get to have a husband and wife duo where you get to, from that side, the business side is, we get to run it together. And then, the staff at NLPT, and, they're unbelievable. Like they're tremendous coaches. They're responsible, they're driven, and I can trust them. I can trust them to do a great job and carry on our mindset and legacy. And that really frees me up to do my job at the university. And have the impact that I want to have up there with our varsity athletes and our student strength conditioning coaches and across our entire really student body at the university, and kind of the impact that I want to have with our collaboration with kinesiology. And then, my time that I do spend in St. Louis to go down there and have
impact. Perfect. Yeah, that's amazing. I think the reason why I asked that question is because there's a lot of people right now listening, and everyone's in the same situation of being in quarantine. And I think it's important for people to realize that there's things that you can do in times of not despair, but like this is a low time because you can't do much, but there's always something to do. And I think your work ethic shows people that, like, you can do a lot more with your time than just sit around, right? And there's always something to do. And with your stories, you've shown that you're the type of person that gets those things done and doesn't waste a minute. And that's really amazing. So
yeah, it's challenging, like, for sure. Like, I'll be honest, like this, I've had times in this last weeks that it's been emotional, it's been stressful, it's the uncertainty of it all has not been easy to digest. We have had to, university, we've had to completely pivot and go completely online with our coaching. Within NLPT, we've had to pivot and train our staff to get online and look at insurance and make sure that we're covered, even though we're online coaching, and then obviously planning to come back and make sure we can operate in a safe manner. And it's been very, very busy, but it's also as challenging it is as a time it is for so many people out there. It's pushed me to grow and expand and work on what needs to be worked on, and what I don't have control over, don't worry about. Control what you can control, and just drive forward with that.
I think now's the perfect time we kind of touched on it briefly a couple times. Let's jump into the University of Waterloo, and that's obviously a really significant part of your life in the last year or two. And can you tell us, you said that it has a connection to kinesiology. Can you explain the job and what it entitles and the connections and how you bridge that to university?
Totally. So the role of the university came 4 years ago now. So I won't forget it. I was kind of at a little bit of a turning point in my career. Like working with young kids. I enjoyed the business side, but there was something missing. And it really came down to building a collegiate program. It's something that's been on my wish list to accomplish in my career. I wanted to have impact, and I wanted to have the opportunity to collaborate with a kinesiology department and start to build out more of the sports science piece of my profession. So at that point, I saw posting for the job. I was at my college with my parents, and I saw a job posting come up, and I texted Brian Bork, who's the associate director and head coach at Waterloo with the men's hockey team, and said, "Hey, like, what's this all about?" Like, and he's like, "Oh, it's actually for a mat leave coverage for the rec." He's like, "But we're potentially going to be hiring a strength coach." I'm like, "Yeah, cool. Like, when that comes up, let me know. I'd be very, very interested in looking at that." So during that time, I kind of back and forth a little bit, and then he's like, "Yeah, we're hiring for it." The original role was to come in and just work with 5 teams. It was going to be working with men's hockey, men's and women's volleyball, and men's and women's basketball. So Waterloo at that point, their strength conditioning had kind of been siloed out. They some people would come in and consult, but there wasn't really any coaching and just kind of centralized guidance for strength conditioning at the university. So Bob was offered to me in a 1.5-year contract position to start. And I came in guns a-blazing. I wanted to reshape the culture. I wanted to change how Waterloo's my alma mater. It's where I went to school. I have a lot of pride for the school, and I wanted to just give back. I wanted to see us succeed athletically. And I also wanted our university, because of how strong kinesiology is, I wanted to be part of creating a hub within Canada for performance, which is still in the process. So during that first year, we came in, we didn't have an intern program. We had some keen students who were kind of involved in strength conditioning a little bit. So that first year was just really kind of getting feet wet, building relationships with the athletes, building relationships with the coaches, trying to have impact as much as we could across campus. As we kind of move into what we do now we're working with 14 of our 30 varsity teams. We have a student coach program where kinesiology students will be, strength conditioning coaches as students, which I never had the opportunity to be, and have a mentor growing up and bounce ideas off of and get some reflection. So now we have that process in place. We're going to be having a formal strength conditioning course for 3rd and 4th year kinesiology students, which was never a thing when I was coming up. And, with the investments and the leadership that we have at the university, with the new facilities we have coming up, we're very, very well on our way to becoming a force in the strength conditioning and athletic performance field at the university. So I am very grateful, and every day I'm very excited to wake up and continue to be part of the growth and development that we have here. And I think that, when I look at, what I do at the university is, yes, I coach, and I coach a lot, and I really enjoy it, but it is more than that. It's developing a mindset, it's developing a system of performance, and it's developing a system for growth for students who want to enter this profession. And it doesn't have to be high performance strength conditioning, but it can be anything within the scope of service. So if you wanted to go into physiotherapy or chiropractics or strength conditioning or personal training, whatever it is, I hope that my experience and the system that we've developed act as a great springboard for people to go out and have impact in their communities upon graduation. So it's a lot of work, but the difference of the university is just it's so collaborative. It's like every day is a different task. Like you're working with a volleyball athlete one day, and then you're working with a swimmer, and then you're working with a student who's trying to figure out how to put a program together and, give them feedback. And then you work with the hockey guys, and like, I don't want to say the hockey guys are easy, but obviously I come from a hockey background, and I work with NHL players, and it's just like, that's kind of the easy part, but it's also the challenging part, because what you forget about at the university is, especially at the University of Waterloo, it is academically very, very challenging. Very challenging. You have 18-year-old athletes who are moving away from home, who are trying to figure out academics, who are trying to figure out the psychosocial piece of being a student, who are trying to perform optimally in school, who are in engineering, trying to get co-op jobs. So I think, what I like most about the coaching piece of the university is that you are really working with people who have life going on. They are not robots. They don't have buffets of food waiting for them. They don't have chefs. These are people that really need you as a rock. And I think that's the most, it's when you get to help a student athlete through a challenging time and see them have success on the other side of it, or just continue to have a challenging time, and you get to be a resource for them. I don't know, that means more than any ring that you could put on your finger.
For sure, yeah. Yeah, I bet it's a hard challenge for university students to find that balance, especially if you're a high level athlete, to find really the equal of, okay, I need to spare time with my schooling and also make sure I'm on top of my game with athletics as well.
Yeah, and that's really where my role comes in, is athletics and sport play such a huge part of the student athlete experience. And if someone can't play because they're injured, then that's going to reduce their student athlete experience. So the strength and conditioning world comes into developing resiliency and athletes that are able to withstand the workload that's going to be asked them in practice. So, yes, it's about helping athletes pursue performance, but it's also making sure that their bodies are resilient enough and have the ability to enjoy life to its fullest during their time at the university. For sure. So, yeah.
I think slowly wrapping it up, we've hit all the points, and I'm sure we could definitely go into more detail on everything that we've talked about. But I think one of the last things that I wanted to touch on is, what is it like working with NHL players or NHL with St. Louis, but then also specifically, what was it like working with Brian Little through NLPT? What is that like? We can talk about him specifically, or just him in general, NHL players in general. What is that like?
Yeah, I think when you're dealing with any professional athlete, they are students. They want to learn, they want to execute, and they want to compete. And they don't want barriers in their way that are going to prevent them from achieving their goal. So I think what working with that level of athlete has taught me is to help people remove barriers that are going to get in the way of helping them achieve what ultimate vision and goal is for their career. So that could be any barrier. That could be, helping them load weight. It could be helping them, anything that you could imagine. I think that's the difference when you work with that level of athlete, and obviously they have a lot more resource than other athletes, especially at the varsity level. So they're used to having meals immediately there, and but I think the biggest thing it's taught me is that they're human. They have real challenges too. They're good people. They want to be the best versions of themselves possible. So I think, whenever anybody hears oh yeah, you work with NHL players or pro athletes, and, you can get pretty hung up on that. But I think, they do have high standards, as they should. And I think that, they get to that point because they've put the work in, and they have embraced a lifestyle of performance for a very, very long period of time, and they just don't have time to waste. So don't waste their time. and be there for them and help them get to the peak of the mountain as smoothly as possible. So I look at it from the perspective, if you were climbing Mount Everest and, you start off at the bottom, you start to work your way up, you get up to base camp and do pretty well. But as you get closer and closer and closer to the summit, you just need to have more resources around you to be able to kind of overcome that next step. And that's when you're dealing with pro athletes is making sure that not so much that you're the be-all, end-all strength coach or the jack of all trades, but make sure that you're being an advocate for these people to make sure that they have the right resources and support structures around to allow them to take that next step and to be able to stay at that summit. And that's the there's such a fine line between pushing so hard that they're going to break down and pushing hard enough to keep them, at the top of their game. And I think it's just when you are working with athletes at that level, they don't want to be told what to do. You have to listen. You have to listen to them, really in tune with the people that they are, what they need from you as a person, as a coach at that point, and then what other resources they need to give them the best possible chance for success. And then also learning from that and distilling it back down to the younger populations and saying, what lessons can you learn from this athlete? And I think it's a disservice to say, if you do this, you're going to get to the NHL. That's not true. Not everyone is going to reach a professional level of sport. But if you try to live a lifestyle of intent and impact and making continued investment in yourself, that's never going to be a bad decision. It's always going to be a good outcome. Whether you make the team or you don't make the team, or you make the NHL or make the premiership or reach NCAA or U Sport. If you make a decision to do something that is a good investment for yourself, good on you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Your stories are really inspiring. I think that I'm really inspired from hearing everything you said today, and I hope everyone listening is too. So I think that's a huge accomplishment for our whole program to be able to even have someone like you who's so grateful and humble of everything you do. So I just want to thank you again for being a part of this.
Oh, thank you guys. Like I said, my really life purpose is to be able to have an impact on our community as a whole. Through my work at Waterloo, the impact that we have, obviously within our varsity athletes, within our greater community and outreach, and the interaction with the university or with the academic piece, and then hopefully through NLPT, we can continue to have a profound impact on the athletes and sport organizations here in Cambridge, and just continue to be a resource. So, and you guys obviously play a big role in that. And I think the more people that we get speaking language of growth and development and vulnerability, and then it's okay to fail, and kind of just embracing that, I think that we're going to position our entire community for something really special down the road.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you so much for all this great information. I know that we're taking it in well, and I hope everyone else is too, but thank you so much again.
Great, guys. It was great to be able to be here for the first time in 3 weeks.
Thank you so much. Just like he said, everyone listening hopefully can take stuff, because like you talked about, you've just learned your whole career, and hopefully people can learn a lot from this. So yeah, thanks from all of us.